Hi everyone, my name is Gabriel and I'm here to do a rune forecast for the week ahead. So before I get into the runes themselves and talk a little bit more about them, I want to discuss with you guys who I am and why I decided to do the runes. So my family comes from Puerto Rico and my grandfather is a part of the diasporic religion of Santeria. And what the diasporic elements represent, especially in Santeria, is that there's a lot of elements that come from different aspects of the world, different parts of the world. So you have spiritual elements that came from West Africa, spiritual elements that came from Northern Africa, from the Bedouin tribes, also came from Spain, especially with Roman Catholicism, as well as the native practices that were nascent in Puerto Rico during the time of colonial conquest. And especially all the spiritual and cultural traditions that were brought over during the transatlantic slave trade. So my family has a long history of this diasporic relationship with spirituality in terms of being able to connect with different things, connect with aspects of our ancestry that may not be overtly present, but are still very powerful and very effective and very resonant with us and with myself particularly. The runes happen to be one of those things. So the runes themselves, they come from the Nordic traditions, areas in Northern Europe, most often associated with Iceland, with Scandinavia, with Norway, places in the northern region of Europe. The runes themselves are alphabets, parts of the alphabets, letters of the alphabet that were used during Viking era times and a little bit before then, if I'm not mistaken. And originally they were inscribed onto stone, and these stones were then used as boundary making stones, in which one person's land would be delineated from another person's land. The runes themselves then started to accrue social and cultural meaning, especially in terms of spirituality, and especially in conjunction with the importance of language and the word in Nordic culture and Nordic tradition. And so the runes themselves, the letters, started to amass different cultural concepts and relate to specific archetypes that were present during that time, which we'll get into, especially while we're doing the reading. Also, I have here the Celtic book of lunar astrology, the lunar zodiac in the Celtic tradition, which is pretty fun. And I want to include it in today's reading simply because not only does it call to me, but also the Celtic traditions and the Nordic traditions often share a lot. And that has to do with the historical context of what had happened in Northern Europe. Ireland, Britain, modern day Britain, Wales, Saxony, areas of like the Dutchland and Norway and other aspects of Scandinavia, all of those areas had a lot of cultural fluctuations between them, especially during the Viking era when there was a lot of war, pillaging, movement between different tribes, things like that. So a lot of these spiritual and cultural traditions will also share. So personally, I feel that the Celtic lunar calendar would be a really great way to blanket and to create this kind of umbrella, so to speak, that will provide more information and more direction towards the rune reading itself. Now, I decided to do this rune reading every Wednesday, and the reason is because I wanted to have a time in which I can create my own personal practice and share it with you guys. And hopefully whatever resonates for you guys during this reading would be really beneficial, will help you throughout the week, and perhaps give you a different thing to think about, or give you new perspectives, or help you in however it can help you. And for myself, it gives me a nice time to come back every week, really dive into the runes, dive into my practice, and share that with you guys. So, let's jump in. Before I get to that, we'll discuss what lunar month we're in. So according to the Celtic lunar calendar, we're in the month of the vine, or Muin, and that lasts from September 2nd up until September 29th. Now, this particular time period in the Celtic calendar has a lot to do with harvest, has a lot to do with artistry, has a lot to do with the aspects of ourselves in which we bring wealth, prosperity, aspects that connect to love, connect to socialization, connect to the social arts, stability, harmony, things like that. Then the other half of it, or the other side of that month, is also we have to be aware of overindulging. Because the vine often brings us grapes, right? And brings us wine, brings us the aspects, the metaphysical energies of the grape that we then imbibe that bring us to different mindsets, different mental states. And overindulgence is not always a good thing. And it's something that has to be taken with a certain sense of understanding about yourself and your own boundaries and limits. Also, during this time, we're associated with Venus. So again, a lot of love, a lot of art, anything that has to do with expression. We also have emerald, a very powerful heartstone, which is associated with this month. And the flower is valerian. Valerian being a very powerful herb that's used for sleep aid. It's used traditionally to help assuage anxieties. So it's really just about taking a step back, looking at how you're relating yourself, how you're creating your relationships. That's socialization. That's the special aspect of yourself that is involved with love, that is involved with your friends, with your family. So with that in mind, we'll do a little rune casting and see what the runes have to say for this week to come. Okay, so I carry my runes in my little satchel here, a little cloth. If you guys are interested in using runes, you can always carry them in a nice little pouch or any cloth that has special significance to you, just because with any divination practice, the divinatory tools that you're using are very important and require a lot of care and love. So, give me a moment while I tune into these energies. I love when they jump. It usually means something. Yeah. And it did come up again, which is good. Very interesting. Okay, so we'll get into the reading real quick. How I read the runes when they fall. I start at the center and I go clockwise around. Usually this represents the movement of time. Because the stones themselves, the concept behind them is that they connect to the strings of fate. They connect to the things that are weird, or the Old English would call it weird, where we get the word weird from. But back then it had a different cultural connotation. Weird meant connections. It meant the serendipitous aspects in which the universe works in very mysterious ways, in which fate is pulled. And it really has to do with the intermingling of various forces. Not only human forces, but social forces, natural forces, which are one and the same in this large web of fate, so to speak. So I start in the middle, move outwards to see the progression of time, especially for this week. So we start out with Perthro, but it's in the reverse position, it's in Merkstav. What that usually represents is that we're having a difficult time in the first part of this week, especially like midweek, this Wednesday. It's a little bit murky. Perthro oftentimes represents jumping into the deeper aspects of yourself, learning about your fate, learning about who you are, coming in contact with the feminine divine within. So when it comes out Merkstav, when it comes out reversed, it oftentimes represents that we're having a little bit of a difficult time accessing our intuition at this time. And that's not a bad thing. Sometimes it just means we have to step back, take a moment to really give ourselves time to think about how we want to relate to other people, how we want to connect to others. So after Perthro, we have Othala. So Othala is really interesting here. Othala represents the home, represents family, it represents your inheritance. It has a lot to do with, think of you're at your house or you're at your apartment or you're at your family's home, and there's all of the memories that are hidden in the wall. There's all of these aspects of you, your younger self, your teenage self, your parents' self, if they live there in that house as well, like all these different elements of your mental and emotional bodies that are still present in the home. Othala really represents that. It has to do with inheritance. It has to do with what you connect to, how you connect, and the power that you draw from that. Then afterwards we have Ethwas, and it's not quite upright and it's not quite reversed. And usually when a rune falls like that, for me, it often represents that this is an energy that can go either way depending on how you act or depending on your course of action or how you effectuate your agency, how you make things happen in your life. So we have that in mind. Then towards the end of the week, going into next week, going to next Wednesday, we have Nauthiz. So Nauthiz is really interesting because Nauthiz is the need fire. It's the fire within us that drives us forward to create, to produce, to survive. Oftentimes it's connected to the word need, to have. Also has a lot of Scorpio element to it. And that energy to need, to have, to survive, to grow, that deep, dark energy within that then bursts into this fire to make it happen. That's Nauthiz. It's a really strong rune. So to string this all together, and let's see, interesting. Oftentimes, the way that the runes fall can give you a different aspect or a different perspective as to how they should be read. In this particular situation, it feels to me like a comet falling from the sky, because you have a nice little trail coming here and a large group of them towards the center. So that energy, it feels as if this week is going to go very fast for some people. A lot of you may be starting work. A lot of you may be starting school, or definitely starting school. A lot of you could be starting new business negotiations, new social relationships, new interpersonal relationships, irregardless of the social standing that they have. And it can feel like it's moving very fast. And I think that speed is connected to this Perthro reverse, to this Merk staff, to this energy of, well, I can't really feel my intuition at this time. I don't really know what's happening. And that's because I feel like a lot of this is moving very fast. This week is moving very quickly. And so what's happening here, I feel, is almost as if the runes are suggesting, find your grounding energy, find your home, find the part of yourself that you can anchor to, your spiritual inheritance. So find aspects of yourself, right? Whether it's art, drawing, writing, painting, going out with old friends from your high school or old friends that you've known for a really long time. Whatever it is, where you can connect to them in that way, or connect to your heart, connect to that, the hearthstone of your home, of who you are as a person. That can really ground you and really help you turn this Erwas upright, which then would mean helping you make that perfect partnership. These, which again, perfection is another whole thing to talk about. Because personally, I don't believe in perfect. I believe in perfect for now, right? So that's something to think about. And with that in mind, we then have Nauthiz. So Nauthiz at the end of this reading really brings an element of, as you reconnect to yourself, as you reconnect to this Othala, as you connect to your home base, the grounding elements of yourself, and allow that to create these partnerships that will then be beneficial for you, these social relationships that then could help you later on in life, or really just support you in how relationships should, right? In that beautiful, we're going to help you move forward, we're going to be there for you when times get rough. Also to have this very powerful element of transition and transformation, moving from one stage of your life to the next, especially for those who are starting their jobs or starting school. This is a big transition, a big time in which the wheel of fortune is turning, and where you're stepping into a different aspect, a different social self, which can be very jarring, can be very scary. And so connecting to all these elements at the end will really help you bring that fire forth, bring that energy of, I'm going to make this more than just survival. I'm going to make this into completing my goals, completing the things that I want to do. It's going to give me that drive to move forward. So towards the end of the week, as we slow down a bit, take some time to reconnect to ourselves, to reconnect to the things that make us feel at home, as we start stepping into these beautiful transitions, we then have, towards the end of the week, that really powerful energy, that fire that's going to drive us forth, which I think is really beautiful, especially in terms of our lunar time frame being the time of Moon, or the time of the wine, of the vine, of the wine and the vine. Having that element to it, having that energy, especially with that fire towards the end, is going to be really beneficial as we head towards the end of this lunar month, at the end of this cycle. Because with all that deep energy, we can then create more beautifully. We can then have the time within ourselves, the resources within our own heart to create, to produce, to have fun, and to connect with our friends, and connect with that side of ourselves that, we don't have to necessarily leave behind as we step into new aspects of ourselves, as we step into new aspects of our social engagement, social relationships. So that would be the forecast for this coming week. And I think it's a beautiful forecast. I think it's going to be really powerful for a lot of people. Again, settling into new energies, settling into new relationships, new friendships, new partnerships, new business relationships. But remember to connect to yourself. Remember, when you come home at the end of the day, take care of yourself, take care of your energy, take care of your boundaries, take care of your psychological disposition, take care of who you are, take care of your mind, your heart. Eat well, get sleep when you need sleep, allow yourself to have your journal, write the things that you need to write, and do all those small practices that really help you ground yourself. Because that's going to be really beneficial towards next week, like we said with Malthus, to bring that fire, to really have the energy available to light that flame. So, with that in mind, that is the rune forecast for this week. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it resonated with you guys. Of course, if it did not resonate, don't worry. This is a very general reading. So there's a lot of energies that we're pulling on. This is the strings of fate, So if it didn't resonate with you, don't worry. Please find something or another aspect, perhaps tarot, perhaps some YouTube channels, some cool stuff, and find something that does resonate. Or perhaps if you find aspects of this resonated with you and other parts didn't, take the ones that did resonate and use them for your benefit. And the rest, just leave behind. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back next week because I'll be doing this weekly, like I had mentioned earlier in the video. I'll be doing it every Wednesday, because Wednesday is Odin's Day, and Odin is the one who had gathered the runes. And I'll talk about that next week, so that'll be fun to look forward to. And yeah, so enjoy your week. Remember, get your rest, connect to your spiritual inheritance, your spiritual self, connect to your home within, find that need fire, really take some time to listen to your intuition. And I'll see you guys next week, all right? Enjoy.